Welcome to Martha Runs the World, a podcast with a new take on running, fitness, and all things health-oriented. I'm Martha Hughes, your host, and each week I present a new topic that is of interest to all runners. Welcome to episode 297 of Martha Runs the World. I was thinking about this week and what I was going to talk about. Sometimes I have an episode, or sometimes I have a bunch of episodes that I want to talk about, and then sometimes I don't. And this was one of those weeks where, what am I going to talk about? I have a few things I do want to bring up, and not any one is enough to fill a whole episode. Although the first one is probably the most important and might be enough, but I wasn't sure. So I thought, okay, well, I'll start talking about this and then add a few other ones if there is enough time. It's really very important because it made a huge difference. It's made a massive difference in my life, I should say. Huge is an understatement. It made all the difference in my life. Our lives are not a straight line. I think I only know one person whose life is a straight line, and I don't know if I want his life, but everyone else in my entire life, their life has not been a straight line. Things happen in your life where you make changes and it isn't planned, and you have to abandon what you planned. You have to adjust. You have to change. You have to abolish. You have to just do things that you didn't want to do. You have to do things you didn't plan to do. And running is like that. Running, you may have wanted to do all this list of races, and you have to scrap the whole list and do something entirely different. Sometimes you have to give up running altogether. Sometimes you have to do something completely different, maybe what you before hated doing. During my long run, my run walk, Saturday, I went for my longest training run until my 50K in 3 weeks. I had many thoughts. And one of the thoughts that I had was, okay, besides what I was going to eat when I got home, that takes up a lot of my time, let me tell you. Besides that, I thought about how my thoughts of running and how my life has changed since last year. I never thought that everything would be so topsy-turvy. I really never thought. And I put on a brave face, and I get out there and I just take charge of the day, and I go out and I say, yes, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do this. But I'm not the same. I'm not the same person that I was. And it got me going down this whole train of thought, this whole rabbit hole, shall you say, about how my running has changed over the years, past my surgeries, past in my age. Everything has changed so much. I never thought it would change this much. I see these pictures of these people who are in their 80s and 90s, and they're just doing these amazing things, and I love looking at them. Many of these people didn't start running till their 50s or 60s, so they did not have the whole lifetime of changes to go through. And I'm not taking anything away from them. I think they're spectacular. I think they're inspirational, and I love them. I really, really love them. But perhaps they never went through the trauma that so many of us have. Now, if they have gone through the trauma, if they have done it, and they're still out there, wow, they truly are super people. I don't know how they did it. It's so traumatic to go through such times and to keep going. So, I mean, our lives are full of things. We don't know, when we're walking down the street and we see other people, we don't know what everyone else has gone through. We don't know if the guy who was just mean to us in the grocery store, or the person who treated us horribly on the phone, we don't know what they've been through. That's why think before we react badly to people who are mean to us, because they might be taking something out on us because they just went through the worst day of our lives. And I'm not excusing them or saying it's okay, because of course it's not. But sometimes it takes a little bit of understanding, maybe a little bit to say, okay, well, yeah, I've been through that and I've reacted badly, and maybe not just be so overreactive and just not say anything, because and just understand that we all go through really, really bad times. Again, I'm not excusing their behavior, but I'm saying we can understand it and maybe just give it a little bit of leeway. I could never imagine that I would have gone through 3 surgeries in 3 years. I mean, that's just that's just beyond the pale. Of course, 2 were planned and 1 certainly wasn't. And after all this, after all that, my running is not nowhere near what it was. And I don't know if it ever will be. I don't know if I'll ever get back to where I was. And honestly, I don't know if I'll ever have that intense drive that I used to have to get it back to where it was. I'm older. I have many things going on. There's a little bit of stress about my living situation right now that I'm not going to get into because it's personal. But I've got retirement in a few years, maybe, if I can ever do that. And I've got other stuff going on. I love running. I love, love, love running. So don't misunderstand me. I never want to stop that, but I have a different perspective on things. I have other stuff that is not interfering with it, but other stuff in my life. I just don't have the same determination to go out and conquer tough races. Those things just aren't as important to me as they used to be, especially trail races. I still have a fear of running on the single track. I know I need to work through this, and I will start to work through this after my October 50K as I work on my trail race in February. For my 50 miler, I may not run on the single track during that race and only on the fire roads and the paved roads, but we'll see. I may not. I've got a very generous cutoff time for that race, so we'll see how it goes. If I can hike fast on the single track, I won't have to run. We'll just see how that goes and how my physical fitness is by that time. I would say don't fret if you change your attitudes about things, because our attitudes are always changing. Our philosophies are changing. Our lifestyle is changing. If you don't have the same drive or the same passion for running, just keep running, but do it casually. Or if you find that you like to do something else better, then do that something else. If you find that you like walking more now or hiking more, then walk and hike. There's nothing wrong with that. There's no shame in that at all. You do you, and you enjoy your life. There's nothing that says we have to keep running. We have to do these things. We have to keep going. I still love running, and I still will love running. I will just mix a lot more walking and hiking in with my running than I ever have before. So that's me. I'm never going to be that runner that I was when I was younger. I'm just not going to be that. And I'm good with that. I'm at peace. I'm at more peace with that now than I ever have in my whole life, which is kind of a nice thing. I can feel better about that than I did before. And I really enjoyed that on this last long run. This is the longest training run I've had in a couple of years, and it felt pretty good. I felt good through the whole thing. A few rest breaks. I got my dehydration and my food, which I'll talk about a little bit, down pat. And everything felt really nice. I was good. It felt okay. So, like I said, I'll talk about my hydration, not dehydration. Goodness gracious. My hydration and my food. I got that down, and that's all right. And I will be talking about that shortly. But I feel okay. I don't have the same frustration that I had before about my running. So yeah, it's all right. All right. Now, one thing I did want to talk about, and this is kind of a fun thing, is about what I listen to when on my long run. I listen to music on my long run, and I listen to Spotify because I love that I can download a playlist on my phone from Spotify, and I don't have to worry about no cell coverage because Xfinity doesn't have the best cell coverage. But I can download my music, and I have a set of music, usually like 8 or 9 hours worth of music. I do. And I usually switch it up. I take some songs off I'm tired of, add some songs on new songs that I want to hear, mix it up, whatever I want to do. And usually there's like 5 songs that I like the best that week. And there's usually music that I keep on the list no matter what. And what I'm going to do, I think after every time that I do a long run, I'll tell you what my favorite song of the run is. And I'm just going to tell you about a couple of my songs. I think I'm going to tell you about my 5 favorite songs of this long run, but each time I'll tell you about one favorite song. And if you want to send me your favorite song of your long run, you can do that, and you can email me at martharunstheworld@gmail.com. And this week I'm going to tell you 5 of my favorite songs, and like I said, in the future I'll just tell you one. But this week, 5 of my favorite songs are Navigate the Seas of the Sun by Bruce Dickinson. And this came out of his Tyranny of Souls solo album in 2005. It's a really, really good song, and it's just very emotional. I like really emotional songs when I run. Especially my long runs. I don't know why. Probably because long runs make me emotional because they take everything out of me. And I have to push myself really hard, and I really like those long, emotional, epic songs. That's why I like Iron Maiden, Bruce Dickinson. I like not power. I like prog metal. I like prog songs, prog bands. Speaking of prog bands, I like Marillion and the song Jigsaw. Oh my God, I love that song. It's very emotional. It's not an easy song to listen to, but it's really beautiful. And I always have that on my playlist. And that's my next song. It's such a classic song and such a beautiful song. And Fish's vocals are just unbelievably great. I really, really love that song. And when I need to reach deep, I listen to that song. A song that I really, really like on long runs and is South Dakota by Chris Stapleton. And this is off his latest album, and you can sing along to this song. And does Stapleton write any bad songs? No, he does not. I was going to say, that's a trick question. His music just sits right with me every time. And this is a great song. You could sing it out loud, and who cares who's watching you or looking at you, because if they don't know Chris Stapleton, they don't know anything. And Anathema's song Kingdom, it's just such a great song. I'm a fool for a good doom metal band, and Anathema is one of my favorites. And that song Kingdom is just so great. It just builds and builds, and then the crescendo comes, and when you need that push, it's perfect. And my 5th favorite song last week was Emmylou Harris's All My Tears. It's just such a great, great song, and everyone should like Emmylou Harris. I don't care what kind of music you listen to, but you should like Emmylou Harris. She is an American treasure. She's an American queen of American folk music, and she's perfect for running. Really, really good. All right. So like I said, let me know your favorite running song, and I will talk about it in the next episode, and I will tell you my favorite running song of the week next episode. And I'll just tell you one song every time. But this time, I told you 5 songs because we're just starting out. And I'll have links. What I'll do is I'll put YouTube links to every one of the songs so you can hear them on YouTube if you want. All right, honing in on my running food. I think I have it down pat for my race. It's a mix of regular food and running type, quote unquote, food. And in the 50K I'm doing, the Ruth Anderson Memorial 50K, they don't supply a whole lot of food or amenities. They do supply water and things, basic stuff, but they don't supply a whole lot else. So I did really, really well on this last long run with what I took with me. I never felt dehydrated at any point, never felt like I was going to get cramps. Of course, it wasn't warm out. It was a rather cool day, so that helped. And I'm thinking that this race is at Lake Merced, and it hardly ever gets warm out there, so that's a good thing too. That it makes it perfect running weather, so I don't think it's going to be hot. It'll probably be cool, or at least a little on the cool side. So my sweet things, I've got sweet, salty, and hydration stuff. My sweet things, I love salted caramel goo, so I'll take a bunch of those. Welch's fruit snacks. I love those things. So I will have a bunch of those, and they're easy to chew. They're not sticky. They're really good, and they go down easy. Pro bars. I love Pro bars. I love the s'mores Pro bars. That's my favorite. What I do is I quarter those. So I'll take a couple of those and quarter them, and I can take one or two of those quartered at a time, because they're like 400 calories each. So if you have 1/4 of them, that's 100 calories. So it's perfect. Trader Joe's Fruit Crushers, apple and banana flavored. Now, the apple and strawberry is okay. The apple and banana is my favorite. So I want to take a couple boxes of those. The salty things, the salty Trader Joe's, just a handful of olives. I love the olives. Those are really, really good for salty things, and they give you some calories besides. And the Trader Joe's beef sticks, quarter those up. They're really, really nice, and they give you the salt and the protein if you need a little protein, but the salt is really, really nice in those. I may or may not take individual bags of potato chips. I haven't decided yet. I may or may not. If I think about it, if I can do that, I will, but I'm not sure yet. I think that might be enough food and hydration. And also in nutrition, I'm going to take Hammer Heat. I have orange flavored. It's really good. I'll take a few of those if I need that, where I don't have to eat my nutrition. I can drink it. And then Noon tabs. I'll take various flavors because the Noon really gets me going. One of the things that really, really saved me this past weekend, I kept drinking Noon. I took 3 Noon tabs with me and used them all, and that really, really helped. I had 3 Noon tabs, and I had them along with the Hammer Heat. So I kept drinking a lot of water and and I kept very hydrated. I will also have a small cooler, a little cooler with ice, and I'll have a couple bottles of Coke. And I want to also get one of those little plastic containers from Trader Joe's with watermelon chunks. So that will also be helpful. And I want to get a little thing of salt. And I'll also take those electrolyte tabs that you can, chewables tabs. They're not salt tabs, but they're electrolyte tabs that you can easily chew on and get immediate electrolytes into your system. They're pretty good, and they're very, very helpful, especially if I need that quickly, and especially if it's warmer than I think it's going to be. But usually it's not out there. It usually stays pretty cold. And that's for my race, and I'm going to take Uber out there, and I'll have a chair, my big bag of stuff, and a cooler. All right. Now, one of the things I wanted to talk about that's a little bit more on the serious side is things that bug me about running books. First off, I'm not talking about books written by regular runners about how they're inspired by life, by religion, or how they've lost a ton of weight and run, or how they overcame addictions or alcoholism, or how the loss of a loved one got them inspired to run, that kind of thing. I love those books, and there's nothing that bugs me about those books. Those books are awesome, and I think they're great, and this is not about them. What I'm talking about is the books that are written by sports scientists, physical therapists, running coaches, elite runners, and the like, who seem to think that all runners are like elite runners, or who are fast runners, or who run very, very quickly. and they don't seem to understand regular runners. This is a problem. This is a very, very big problem to me. As much as I like Matt Fitzgerald books, I do enjoy them. I see a common thread in his books. And the common thread is that he sees regular runners as very fast at running at least 10-minute miles or faster. And this is just not true. I would say, yeah, maybe the younger ones are, but many older runners are not running that fast, and maybe beginning runners are not going that fast. The only person who understands that runners are not going that fast who is a rider, who is an elite runner and a writer and a running coach, is Jeff Galloway. He's the only person who actually understands that most regular runners are not going 10-minute miles or faster. Also, most runners cannot dedicate 5 days a week to running or more per week. The frustration I get out of these books is that they seem to think that a regular runner has to dedicate almost all of their life to running. They cannot. And then there's no leeway given to the regular runner. What frustrated me most is that there's Alex Hutchinson's book, Endure. I started reading this once, a couple years ago, and I got so frustrated, I gave up on it. I actually sold it, and then I rebought it this year. I know, but I did. And I read it through. I said, okay, no matter how much it frustrates me, I'm going to read it through, and I'm going to see what it's about. So I read it through. It didn't frustrate me as much this year. Still don't agree with all of it. I still think he's a snob. But I didn't throw the book down when I was reading it, which I did the first time. That's a start, right? An improvement. But I'll tell you what really frustrated me about it. Here's a paragraph from one part of his book in the beginning. You might think the best test of maximal endurance is fairly obvious, a race. But race performance depends on highly variable factors like pacing. You may have the greatest endurance in the world, but if you're an incurable optimist who can't resist starting out at a sprint, or a coward who always sets off at a jog, your race times will never accurately reflect what you're physically capable of. So people who start out slow in races, according to Alex, is a coward. Now that's just ridiculous. Why would he call his readers cowards? Okay, first of all, you're putting down probably half your audience, maybe even more, because if you're a regular runner who just wants to read something more and try to gain some information and try to be a better runner, you're being called a coward. Come on, don't call your readers cowards. You want them to like you, don't you? So I think that was at the point where I threw the book down and I refused to read anymore the first time around. Well, I read it through. Then he goes on later in the book to talk about how elite runners can do more than regular runners who can handle more pain and endure more hardship than regular runners. Well, no. I'm going to say no. This is not true. Elite runners, that's their job. That's all they do. I'm going to say that the mother of 3 children who's dealing with postpartum pain and getting back into the shape she was before pregnancy and trying to fit in training before and after her job and taking care of her kids, which she works out taking care of with her husband, is better at dealing with tolerating pain than a professional athlete whose only job is running. I'm going to say she's better at it than the runner. Come on. This is ridiculous. It's ridiculous to compare. It's ridiculous. Unless you are, of course, Kilian Jornet, who won Hard Rock with a dislocated shoulder. I know for a fact what shoulder pain is like. Well, mine was like maybe 50 times more than dislocation, but I understand that he finished the whole thing and won with dislocated shoulder. That is pain. But unless you have that kind of pain, you don't have the same pain as real regular runners who deal with training before work, taking care of your kids, going to work, then training after work, and still taking care of your kids and not getting any sleep. That is real endurance. That is real pain. And that's more than an elite runner does every day. Sorry, you cannot convince me otherwise. And the thing that he never makes the comparison to regular everyday people in here. He just says, well, elite runners just endure more. Elite runners can do more. They can handle more pain than regular runners. He just says that. Okay, well, the studies show. Studies, nonsense. Studies don't compare. The studies don't put 2 and 2 together. No, the studies don't show what goes on. No, I'm sorry. And maybe I'm ranting, maybe I'm shouting a little bit, but it kind of upsets me. And there's also this myth that a slow runner is about 10 minutes per mile. To me, if you run 10 minutes per mile, you're pretty fast. Maybe back in 80s or 90s when there weren't quite as many people running, that was slow. But not now. That's not true anymore. If you go to a road race and road races and race professionals are really out of it, because when I did the Golden Gate half marathon last year, it was like, okay, 6-minute miles here, 7-minute miles, 8-minute miles, 9-minute miles, and then anyone after that, you're all here. So half the race was back before that in one big giant corral. It was like, come on. There's people, the race community is really, really missing a huge opportunity here. And the running community is missing a huge opportunity here by not addressing and by not taking slower runners seriously. And it's been a problem for years. It's been a problem for a very, very long time. Since I've been a slower runner, I was faster when I was younger, but since I've been a slower runner, it's been a big problem. And it still is. It really still is. With more people out running at older ages, there's just going to be more slower runners. They're not going to be more faster runners. Sure, the elite runners are getting faster in the Olympics, but they're not getting faster on the roads. That's not happening. So I would suggest to the professional running community to address slower runners and give them more respect. But I don't know if that's going to happen. And I probably will not be reading any more of the professional, the professional books about endurance and all this stuff, because you're not telling me anything new that I don't know already, that I haven't experienced already. So unless you address and take us at the back of the pack a little bit more seriously, what you got for me, really? And one last little thing before I say goodbye here. Boston Marathon's qualification requirements are a little stricter. And yeah, that's going to happen because they're taking more people in as charity runners. They realize that there are more and more slower runners who are not going to qualify under their requirements. They are going to put money in and be slower runners. So I'm wondering, and they never show this. And the thing with Boston is that they're very sneaky about this. No one tells you what time the slowest runners in Boston come in. They never show the times of the charity runners. I've been asking this for years. What are the times that the charity runners come in? Why don't they publish those? Do we have charity marathoners come in at 10 hours? I don't know. Where can I find the times of the charity Boston runners? It's something that running has to address, and that the elite community in running needs to understand that not everybody's going to be 8-minute milers. That just isn't happening. And not everybody is going to become that. They're just going to get slower with age. And as these younger runners get older and older, they're going to get slower and slower. It happens. So yeah, take us seriously. All right. That is it. And let me know what your favorite song is that you run to, that you always have on your playlist. I would say that right now, out of the songs that I told you about, probably my favorite song of those 5 that I told you about, probably Navigate the Seas of the Sun by Bruce Dickinson, is my favorite on my playlist. Now, next week, when I tell you my favorite, it's going to be a different one. So you tell me what your favorite song is. You can email me at martharunstheworld@gmail.com. Until next week, have a great, great week. Have great runs. And be good to yourself. And let's tie up our shoelaces and go for a run.